All right, guys, we're back for the first real round review for Supercoach 2024. Round one's done, the real opening round. 21-56 the score. Not great, honestly. I thought there was a lot of places where I've given up points, but all in all, for round one, it's not that bad a team. I really like the games this weekend, so we'll go over some games, like give a bit of analysis on that, and then also go through the players. Of course, also repping the West Coast stuff. We did lose by 50, but for three quarters, we only looked like a bad team. We didn't look like the worst team. It's kind of that fourth quarter, right? Conditions were hot. And yes, I know I look like Casper the Ghost. It's fine. I don't tan. Yeah, so whatever. Just had that going to see what I could make. So, Dacos was absolutely everything you thought he was going to be. Just a cheap touch merchant. Someone that, yeah, you should have started. If you didn't, I don't know what your backline is and where you're spending that money. Maybe you've got an extra premium midfielder, and that could be like Tom Green. Maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's wishful thinking. I think you should just start a Dacos. What is his ownership? Can I see that from here? I don't think I can. But yeah, absolutely grade A player. Collie would have started 0-2, but it's got nothing to do with him. It's more so to do with their forward line, just not really connecting. And the defense really just not being as like prolific, if I can still like commentator language, as it was last year. Last year they were like pretty solid defensively the whole season. Dan Houston, so I did have Tom Stewart for a while. Did go down to Dan Houston, and I think Tom Stewart scored higher. What did Stewart score? I was at this game, and look, I like the new GMHBA. I think that new end looks brilliant. We were sitting on the opposite side, so we got to like see the whole thing. Place looks fantastic visually, but holy hell, man, you cannot use internet in there. It's like we're stepping back into the 40s or something. You can't use internet. 105 is not too bad. But yes, the Dan Houston, brilliant kick of the ball. Like, even if you don't like Port, just look at Dan Houston's kicking, and you'll like Dan Houston. He's so beautiful of a kick. It's hard to explain. When he like just sets up plays, like either it's from the kick in, he'll just nail someone like on the dot that's like 60 meters out, and it will just set up a goal. Yeah, he's just so fun to watch. Sheasel 130, exactly the same role he had last year, if not a little bit better, because there's no Zeeble or Hall to contend with. Yeah, Sheasel's absolutely going to be fine. My only gripe here is, and I brought this up last week, if North go on a pretty big losing skid of games, like maybe they lose their first, I mean, it's possible they lose to Freo. Very likely going to lose to Carlton. Probably likely to lose to Brisbane. And I mean, Geelong, probably going to lose that one as well. It is definitely possible for them to start 0-5. And if they do that, I'd imagine some magnets have to be moved. And then they've got the Hawks, which for Clarkson, that's going to be a big game. I mean, they could definitely start 0-5, which is not great, because if they start moving magnets, I'd imagine Sheasel could be one that's moved, just because he can play multiple positions. But in saying that, look, we don't know anything yet, and to make moves on speculation never really works out. So yeah, for now, Sheasel, amazing pick. If you don't have him, I wouldn't target him, because you probably have other issues. Like, everyone has a rookie roulette issue. Granted, I kind of got off scot-free. I think that's where my points have came from, just having correct rookies on field. Obviously, like, there's a couple of points lost, like 69 to 74. 63 to 72. Some points lost, but like in the grand scheme of things, like it's not the worst ever. Hayden Young, man, how many clangers did he end up on? I feel like it was about 9, or maybe it was 11. I should have pulled it up, but yeah, just a lot of turnovers. A lot of turnovers. But high tackle number, high disposal number, gave away a couple of really stupid frees, like very just not good frees to give away. But that's all stuff that I expect coaches and stuff to get on him for. Rio did have a bunch of injuries at the end of that game, so Young did kind of slide backwards in defense, but I think that was just more so protect the game style instead of, oh, too many injuries. Hayden Young's a backline player again. I think it's just, defend the lead, and he's someone that obviously can play defense, so move him backwards. Play him like a defensive midfielder if you're versed with like soccer terms. Zach Williams, man. Thursday night I was here and I was watching the game in the MCG. Great crowd. I love that opening round game. That first game of the year. It's brilliant, but Zach Williams definitely tried to sour it. I can't tell if it was rust or he's just not got the perfect role. So you got Mitch McGovern, who's playing essentially the same role, right? But Mitch McGovern's a way better intercept defender. He's got more kick-in priority, I think. I think he's just higher on the board for it. But there were also times where Zach Williams just wasn't around the kick-in. Like, he's given up a free on the 50, so he can't be on the line to take a kick-in. I don't know how much of that is just, it is what it is for 1 week, and then it'll come good, because he didn't play that bad, I didn't think, versus Brisbane. Give it another week. If your defense is absolutely set and Zach Williams was like your lowest score, maybe there's a reason to go Williams to D'Ambrosio, because D'Ambrosio's role looks great. Hawks look good. Even though they lost, I think that was a very good showing from them. Just kind of the age caught up to them. They couldn't kick straight, and they just didn't have a leader to go, hey guys, we need to like calm it down. We've kicked 17 behinds here. Let's go, get some really good shots on goal. But that'll all come with time, and I think by the end of the season, people will say that Hawks have really kind of taken a step forward. How's of these three, I did get the highest score, but I still wasn't like super happy with How's game. He's got Hawks next week. Should be a fine matchup for him. Mitch Lewis didn't look the best, but he was kind of also being managed as well, kind of like a maybe 70%, 80% game. He's not at full fitness yet. So I think every week, this week, I do have to field one of these two. From that week onwards, I don't think I have to worry about any of them. Maybe of course the Collingwood week, but you know what I mean. But going to be looking at getting D'Ambrosio in. Gibcus, this one sucked. It sucked to see live. It sucked to see you on replay. It sucked overall. Just another ACL injury for him. I don't know if it's actually been confirmed if it was both ACL and MCL. That's just a thing I saw on Twitter and Discord. Definitely was the ACL though. That knee just blew itself up. But yeah, kind of sucks for him. It sucks for Richmond fans because he was kind of in for a big year. And then Marty Hoare came in for Bowie. Played a good game, just didn't get as much of it as he did 2019 when he was playing, or 2020. So we'll see. Maybe this is just ramping back up. He's had a couple of years out of the AFL, playing more VFL and other state leagues. But yeah, he should be a bit better going forward. In midfield, there were a couple midfield issues. Obviously, I didn't have the perfect five. But I don't mind this group. They're pretty fun to watch outside of Nick Martin, which we'll get into. But I thought all all the guys played good. It was just kind of like a couple of calls didn't go their way. It's the difference between a 120 and a 130 or 140 or a 150. Obviously, the big one I'm missing is Raul. Um, if you've followed me forever for any amount of time, I love Matt Rowell. Like, I think he is the next superstar of the league. Like, if there's someone that can beat Dacos as best player in the league, I think it's Matt Rowell, just because of how contested and how strong and just built like a 90s midfielder he is. Like, he's insane. But yeah, Bontempelli was good. There was obviously a bit of like beverage terrorism, but he was fine. I feel like there was a stretch in the actually the whole third quarter. I feel like he only had 3 touches in that quarter. Not happy with it, but look, he fixes up one quarter and Dogs play better. The game on the weekend was just a nightmare for him, including their sub. But yeah, I think that could have easily been like a 135 game. So if that's 135, do you change your tone? So yeah, I think that's fine. Butters 117. Like I said before, the conditions in Adelaide, it was hot. You could see players were cramping up. First game of the year, like full intensity game. So going 117 instead of 130, it's fine, right? Like the conditions weren't the best. But there was a couple of times I wish Butters didn't lead head first. There was one on Jeremy McGovern where it's like, what are you doing? Why are you going at, like, McGovern's twice your size? What are you doing? But yeah, I mean, he's such a fun player to watch, and he passes that check. Like, pick players you like to watch because it will make Supercoach way easier in the long run. And he passes that check. He's so fun to watch. Jack Steele. So, this not netted me about a 20-point loss because of Naismith. Once the Gibcus injury happened, or like I was kind of worried about Gibcus injury, I had to start making room. So I went Took down to Steele, which is probably what I think Took had a 130, didn't he? Took Miller had a 137. So what's that? It's say it's 15 odd points. Then I went Matt Crouch down to Wines, which is probably another like 30 points lost because I think he had a 120, didn't he? What did Crouch have? He had a 114. So yeah, another 20 points lost there. 40 points in total, not great. But the problem was I needed a 20, 30k odd. Naismith was already locked, couldn't go down to Livingstone. I did drop Ollie Dempsey, which I had here, and I didn't have Sharp. I kind of had Wilson in Sharp's spot. So, yeah, that sucks as well. But yeah, I had to cut costs because I didn't know how I was going to get D'Ambrosio in for Gibcus, or just a replacement in for Gibcus that I didn't mind. Because Caulfield, I wasn't sure on. Zachary didn't end up being an option at all. He's done his hammy, so he'll be out a couple of weeks. If you've got him, it's time to trade him. But yeah, these two was kind of weird. But Steele played good in Geelong. Probably a good ground for him because it's pretty contested. A lot of stoppages. I couldn't think of the word. But yeah, he was fine, honestly. There was a lot of preseason reports saying that he's kind of past it. It is only round 1. Maybe by the time we get to round 10, it's kind of set in that he's not in the best role for that team. But we'll see as time goes on. Nick Martin, my God, what a terrible user of the ball. At least for this game, man. Like 18 touches at halftime. I'm working, so like, I can't see the scores completely for some reason. Supercoach doesn't really like working if I'm not at home. So I'm checking through the AFL app and I see, oh man, he's already at 18 touches. That's sweet. He's probably like rocking 70, 80, something like that at halftime. Great pick, under 500 okay, I've done it again. I've found another gem. Granted, he's not like a pot or anything, and he just he's he's young. Like, okay, he's young, so he hasn't played the role before. He's never really been the kick out of defense guy. He's never really been the kick to set up the offense type guy. So you're hoping this fixes up. Because if it doesn't, they will move him back to like a wing or a half forward role. Especially once like they get everyone back. Like once Ridley, I mean, I don't know how long Ridley's out for. Maybe it's the season. I can't remember what the injury was. If it was like an Achilles or something like that, then obviously he's done. But man, Sydney next week, he could get torched again. Maybe there's a world where you trade him because okay, so he's got Sydney, so that's two bad scores. He's probably going to drop price. Third is St Kilda. That's not a terrible one. Even Geelong got some playoff half back versus St Kilda. Geelong's problem is just their team's kind of incorrectly built. I think it's too much old and too much inexperienced new. But yeah, so where are we? Then Port, man, you might trade him. Maybe it might be the play to trade him. He's got a pretty tough start for a halfback that is kind of having decision-making issues. That's probably the first one I like because halfbacks at Marvel always do good. That's the tough one, man. Maybe if you want to use a boost, I wouldn't be surprised to use it on Nick Martin. And then Wines was good. Don't let the sub ton fool you. He was good. He just was struggling to stay on the ground. I'd imagine it had something to do with the heat. Not a fan of the new haircut. It really makes him just look like a big square. But yeah, I thought Wines was fine. Did have a couple of disposal problems, but it's because like he was getting in contested, so you handball it out and just someone picks it off. It was fine. Nothing to worry about here. But if there was a worry, it's if he stays on the bench too long. Because they were running like Drew through the middle. I'd want those minutes to go to Wines. If you give me 1 second, I am going to actually pull up CBAs because I want to see what they... Alright, so for Port, yeah, when they ran guys like Mead, Drew got a lot of fourth quarter CBAs. I reckon all these are in the fourth. I mean, you'd want, say, 2 or 3 of them to go to Wines. Maybe all of Drew's ones to go to Wines as well. I don't know, it's a bit weird. I'd like this to be in the 60s. If this was their middle three, and then, I mean, Horn Francis at 71 compared to Butters. I mean, Butters always gets himself hurt, so he's on the bench. But yeah, Wines was fine. Wines was fine. If you went to Crouch, obviously you had better. But if you were stuck on Wines or you had both, absolutely fine. McKercher really got at people that benched him or didn't start him. 88, pretty good score for a rookie. You'll take that. It's an on-field score. Next week's going to be best 18, and that's kind of like your ideal, like 15, 16, 17, 18 score, right? You want it to be in that bottom 5, bottom 4 of your scores and have kind of tons or 90-ish scores, like just close tons, to be in most of the 18. But yeah, he was fine this week. I think people really over bloated how like he's never done this before and the North midfield and stuff like this. There's not enough points to go around. He was fine. Yeah. Riley Sanders, my God, Beveridge, what did you do? Why would you sub him? Supposedly he said it's because he had 4 bad turnovers. Lockie McNeil is out there doing nothing. Rory Lobb did nothing. He had like one, you're a forward, you should kick this type of goal. Yeah, I don't know. This was not the sub I would have made. And this is this is fast track and killing a player's confidence. Like, you can't kill it faster than that. Oh, you've had a couple of bad turnovers, you get subbed out right after halftime. You can't do that any worse, right? Like, that is terrible coaching for a young player. Instead of you move him around the field and you talk to him, maybe you sub him out in the fourth, and then, instead of bringing up to media that it's a turnover problem and just saying, look, it's his first game, wasn't sure about his legs, we're going to save him for next week and for the rest of the season. That is the worst way a coach can throw a player under the bus, especially a young player. If there's something Beveridge deserves to get fired for, it's if he continues to do this to young players, because that Bulldogs list is not good. Outside of Bontempelli, Treloar, Norton, there's maybe 5-6 guys, right? But that list is a lot bigger than 6 guys, and a lot of them are not good. So you should be playing these young ones. Especially guys like Rory Lobb. You've paid him a lot. He sucks. He does nothing. Lachie McNeil continues to get games. He sucks. He does nothing. Why wouldn't you sub McNeil, put Sanders up half forward, right? Like, it's a different look. It makes Sanders, he doesn't have as much of the ball, so he can't commit as many turnovers. I mean, people would still be upset, but like, that is the worst possible thing you could do to a first gamer. Hopefully he bounces back next week and this doesn't just absolutely destroy his confidence. They've got Gold Coast next week, so they're going to get smashed. Gold Coast look awesome this year. It's super fun to watch. The Matt Rowell effect and everything. What a terrible decision by Beveridge. Absolutely terrible. Matt Roberts, 69. Sydney's backline look really good this year, right? Like Blakey, I think Blakey's like a smoky pick for top 6. He just does everything right. And then Roberts, like for a rookie, he's going to, I'd imagine, be anywhere between 65 and 85 for the year. But yeah, absolute fieldable score. Lost 5 points on Carroll, but I'd be more happy with Field and Roberts anyway. I know Carroll does have a CBA spot, but yeah, like he had a rough first half. So, I'd prefer to go with a halfback. And then the ruck line. So Gawn was worth every penny, right? The people that were like, oh, you could go Gawn down to Sherry. No, you start Max Gawn, right? Grundy, opposite side, right? Like, you could have probably got away with not starting him. I still think the value's there for him to make cash in the long run. I mean, what did he score last week? It was a good score last week. 139 into a 71. I mean, he's got Essendon next, so he's got first Goldstein, who's just a good ruckman at stopping a big score. But then the Richmond game, he should do fine. Nank's not the best defensive ruckman ever. West Coast, he'll put up a big score because Bailey Williams is still not a ruckman. Gold Coast, it's a bit weird. Hawks will do fine because they don't have like a true best 22 ruckman. They kind of just rotate one until they found one. GWS, kind of the same deal. They're building, but we'll see. So yeah, Grundy's absolutely fine. Naismith obviously didn't play, but this should have been a Livingstone. I should have just made a Livingstone. But there's a higher chance of Naismith playing. That's why I kept him. Because, what's his name? Nankervis' injury is something that can flare back up, right? So if he just takes a bad fall, it can flare back up, and he missed a couple of weeks. Forward line, Isaac Heaney, what a man. 136, could have been higher, could have been in the 150s, but he couldn't kick. Like, he was 2-2. He had at least one more, like, at proper easy one. Like, it wasn't that bad of an angle. Pretty close, right? Like, it's something that he really should have made. As someone who's played forward for most of his career, I mean, he should have made it. But yeah, Heaney is excellent, right? He's a must-have until the other Sydney guys come back, right? Which is still weeks away, right? It's not like, Parker and Mills and stuff, they're back next week. They're still weeks off. So yeah, we'll get another couple of big scores. Obviously, he's not going to go 140 every week, but yeah, he's in around the ball. He's the role that everyone's wanted him to have for the last couple of years. He's finally got it, and he's like putting in full effort because at the start of the season, he's got a full tank. Yeah, I mean, he's got to be. How many Brownlow votes would he have right now? He's probably on like 5 or 6 votes. 3 votes definitely for round one. I mean, for opening round. And then, I don't know, 2 or 3 for this week. Who would you give 3 to for Sydney? Maybe Warner. Warner was good. I thought Warner's like stretch between the midfield and forward was good and impactful. He's probably on 6 votes. So yeah, Zach Fisher. I think I'm going to trade him. Just because there's so much better value now. Like with Billings back, you got Dempsey. There's way better value, right? Like Zach Fisher might not be a keeper. Yeah, he could be, but he also might not be. And I mean, the people are siding with that. 8,000 people trading him out. What did it say? 165,000 teams. What's that? It's 10%. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's a chance I trade him out. I'd like to see what this number is towards the end of the week, though. If I did, it would be to Billings because he's got the 2 big scores, the 1 big score in the system. His price rise comes up this week. So if you are targeting Billings, you have to have him in before round 2's lockout, not round 3, round 2. For him and the Gold Coast players, you have to have him in this week. Not you can't like 1, 2, round 3 bring him in. It has to be opening round, round 1, 2 you bring him in. But yeah, 5 was way better than I expected. I expected like a 70 from this game. I thought these would have been swapped. Young with like the post ton type of score, and then 5 with like a mid 70s. Man, 5 was very good, laying a lot of tackles. I reckon he had like 3 holding the ball calls in the first half, like holding the ball tackles to the other guy. Yeah, I mean he was absolutely setting the place on fire. He was a big reason why they won that game. I hope that's not just a wind back the clock for round 1 type thing, and he actually does keep it up. They've got North at Marvel. It's definitely one that he can keep up. James Jordan, he's a great player. Like, Sydney are playing good. He's definitely one of those guys. Even like if you watched him while he was at Melbourne, he plays better when the team plays better. If Sydney struggled to start the year, I'd imagine Jordan's scoring wouldn't be the best because he is an outside guy, so the inside ball winners have to win the ball and get it to the outside. So if they're struggling in the midfield, which Sydney isn't, Sydney has an amazing midfield this year. Heaney, Goulden, Warner, Mills still to come back. Parker's going to do rotations in there. Jordan can do a rotation inside, but like he's primarily an outside guy. Their midfield looks good. Grundy is not a bad ruckman either. He's a very good tap ruckman, very good at placing it in like the chest of a midfielder. I mean, yeah, Sydney look really good. I did not think they'd be this good this year. And then Harley Reid, this was going to be a Harley Reid jersey. It's actually no number on the back. Look, there's the whole overblown thing, like, oh, he's on the back of the newspaper for, it was like 10, 15 weeks running. He's good. He's very good. 16 touches isn't like setting the world on fire, but he's getting into guys. Even though we're down 50, he's showing effort, showing determination. That is the type of player I want. You build around Harley Reid, Ruben Jinby, Oscar Allen. They're your 3 right now, and you keep adding. I think Matt Flynn can be in that conversation as like a build around piece. Just has to stay healthy. He struggled with health problems in GWS, and now he's got a bit of a health problem here. If they can just all stay fit, right? And then you've got young guys. Hewitt, I think, can be an absolute star. Noah Long has his moments, but sometimes he looks really good. Petrocelli can be like a very good wingman in certain scenarios. I think that, I mean, look, I'm doing all the West Coast game analysis, right? I'm a West Coast fan. If you don't like it, go watch someone else. Um, yeah, I think Petrocelli is good. I think that he just sometimes falls into, I'm faster, so I'm gonna outrun you, and it never works, right? You're playing against pro athletes, right? Like it's not gonna work. If he ups his skill game, he can be a very good wingman to half forward type. Um, Outside that, I mean, a forward line is the issue, right? Like you've got Oscar Allen, Noah Long on certain days, um, and then you kind of just like grasping at straws. Like, who are you kicking to? Jack Darling's way too old these days. Yeah, I mean, there's just not really anyone there. What are you going to do? Put Bailey Williams up forward? I don't know if he's taking a mark for you. But yeah, I loved Harley Reid's game, especially against Port in terrible conditions. Port is a defensive oriented team. It's why they've struggled to win a flag, but they are premiership contenders every year, right? They've always, for the last couple of years, finished like a top four spot, had a good winning record, you know, and then it just falls apart in finals because in finals you need to be able to kick a winning score, and Port have struggled to do that. But playing a good game against a defensive oriented team is a great first game. But yeah, Harley Reid was fine. Sexton didn't really catch much of this game just because it was on the same time as at the Geelong game. But looking at all the stats, Sexton looked absolutely fine. It just looked like a game where he didn't get as much of it. He got more of it in round 0 versus round 1. Absolutely fine. This is a fieldable type player. I think next week I'm going to field Cadman just because it is against West Coast. And Cadman looks very good, by the way. I did watch the GWS game. They played North, caught the first half of it, missed like the end of the second half of the third and then the fourth. But from what I saw, Cadman looks so much improved from last year, right? Both physicality wise, like he's built up his body, he knows how to use his body now. I think that's the next step for him, is knowing that, look, you're huge, just outpower the defender, especially if there's a smaller guy on you, which North did have a lot. They had, like, before Goda got hurt, which, you know, that sucks for him, but they had Goda on him, and Goda's way smaller, so he could just kind of pivot around him. But he's, you know, bigger frame now. He's feeling a bit more confident, I believe. He's someone that probably next year is going to be his breakout year. This year is going to be his building year. Like, he puts together so many goals for the year. Next year's the real, like, stats. He's going to be the proper breakout guy. But yeah, I think he's going to be absolutely fine this year. I could see him going up to 350k as a forward. And then Darcy Wilson, bit mixed on him. The second half, I thought he was really good. The first half, I could not see him at all. Didn't know what his jersey number was. Didn't know anything. Couldn't find him around the ball. Basically, right after he got his first goal, he was just on for the rest of the game, right? Like, just hovering around the ball, hovering around stoppages. I wonder if that was like a coaching thing. Like, they went to him and said, look, yeah, I know it's your first game, but come on, let's go around the ball a little bit, not be as shy. I think he did have Dangerfield on him for a fair bit of the game. Not like a tag or anything, just like your normal man-up duties. But, yeah, I mean, first game of going against a 300-game team captain. Yeah, didn't expect a ton from him or anything. But, yeah, he was fine. As for trades, we're already 30 minutes into this one, but it's round 1, so of course there's going to be a lot of talking. Definitely Gibcus out. So I did make the midfield changes just to ensure that I can go Gibcus to D'Ambrosio, which gives me a D6 in most weeks. And then the next one, this is really the only trade I have to make, right? Like, in terms of forced trades, it's just that. And then you filled in for Zach Williams. Let me put that on Hall. And there we go. That's the 6 for the week. Everyone's playing here. Everyone's playing here. Everyone's playing here. It's just like, do I want to get rid of a Martin or a Fisher? If I go Martin right now, I've only got 507k. Let's see, who can I afford with that? Ford. Flanders is there. In the midfield, I'm not too sure about it. He looked really good, but yeah, I don't know. Lions probably would have scored better if he didn't miss like the first 5 minutes. He just copped a head cut, just a happened accident. Sorko not into at all. Yeah, I mean not much here. Lord Francis, what did he end up scoring? 112. Pretty good. Who scored good? Rowbottom is honestly interesting because, but I think that this is the guy that's probably going to die off once Parker and everything comes back instead of Heaney. Just because Heaney's like I said, he's probably got 6 votes out of the first 2 games. He's like a very good midfielder for someone that is a tagger / outside guy. He's a very good just all around midfielder. Max Holmes I thought was around it a lot. Didn't mind his game. Matt Crouch, someone I could go to, right? A correction from Martin to Crouch. Would that net me positive? Yeah, I mean positive 2k, but I don't know. Give me 1 second. I'm going to look through these. Also, just another one I wanted to talk about because I did switch to the forward line. Archie Perkins had an amazing game from what I saw. 3 goals, a ton of like just disposals, everything like that. Good efficiency. It's about time for one of these Essendon mid-forward defender guys. Like they've got Cox, Perkins. There's one more. I can't remember his name, but like there's about 3 or 4 of them. It's about time one of these guys showed up and like is a proper every week best 22 type player, and it has to come from inside the midfield. If they move Perkins in the midfield and they just say, look, Shields not in 22 anymore, which I think is definitely an option, right? Like Shield has not offered much for this team. I would definitely not mind. Like it depends if what's his name? Brad Scott. Yeah, Chris Scott's the Geelong one. Brad Scott. If he came out and said something about like, yeah, we see Perkins as a midfielder, we're going to be playing him there. I would actually hop on this pick because he looked really good, and he was nothing outside the ordinary. Outside the 3 goals, right? You take away the 3 goals, maybe it's an 80 or a 90 score, but I mean that's better than Zach Fisher did. And if you're at 80 or 90, 1 or 2 goals, then you're back to this, right? It's about setting yourself up for a big score. And I think Perkins has got everything for it, to be honest with you. Definitely one that I'd be happy for if I'm an Essendon fan. I'm thinking Billings is the one I'm going to go for. Logan McDonald also played really good, but he is a proper forward. So it's going to be just 1 week's a good score, next week's a bad score, so I wouldn't really touch it at all. Like last week he scored a 30, so wouldn't touch it. Billings, if he wasn't the sub in opening round, everyone would have him. I probably would have him over Fisher anyway, just because it makes the money work better, and I'd have a better midfield. For now, I am going to bring him in. We'll see if it changes though. I do want Dempsey because he looked very good. He was so around the ball. He just has a knack for getting to the ball, which is what I like in my rookies, honestly. I like a bit of hunger to go get the ball. So we'll rock with this one for now. Price rise here. Price rise here. And Suns players, yeah, he will get a price rise as well. Double GWS. So what I said, there's 4 teams that will get one. I check that. We'll go, yeah, because they don't show opening around here. Basically, anyone that has 2 games that's not a Carlton player or a Who's the other team? It's Carlton Brisbane? No, is it? Carlton Brisbane. Anyone outside those two have a price rise this week. But yeah, that's what we'll go with for now. 150k in the bank. That will go towards if I have to upgrade Nick Martin, if I have to upgrade Wines, if I have to upgrade Steele. Next week is definitely another correction week. My philosophy this year is using the extra trades for corrections. Even if it's a premium correction, I'm fine doing it as long as it's like getting me extra points and I'm happy with the player. Like right now, this week, I'm honestly not too upset with going like Martin to Raul. I'd be fine with doing that. Sure, I can get to green. I think Raul's better. Honestly, I think Raul is probably going to be the best, not the best midfielder, but like of the sub 600Ks, he will be the best one. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I do that. I mean, 70k in the bank is still pretty good. You do that. This midfield looks all right. Wines is obviously the weakest one here, but like Steele is still a good player. Butters, Bont, Raul. Not a fan of the buy though, because he's got next week's buy. But I mean, you could just play Carroll. I don't know. I think I'm talking myself into doing that. We'll see. But yeah, see you all next week. Let me know what trades you make and how your team went. What are like some of the ranks and stuff for round one. But yeah, I'll see you all next week. Tasty out.